So we are going to be hopping into game number 2 here between our two Terrans, GoOdy and PredY. I'm loading up.
Link engaged.
All right, guys, so we are live here for game number 2. It's the TeamSpeak TL Open number 9, the U.S. edition. It's also a TSL 3 qualifier, the second one that we've got. And we just saw attempted siege pushes fail, a Thor push with siege tanks fail, but then ultimately a great transition over to battle cruisers and just enough to get the job done. Push in, deny your opponent that last little bit of economy they need, and win the game. So GoOdy is up 1 game versus PredY, and GoOdy is spawning in the southwest position as the purple Terran. His opponent here on Xel'Naga Tower is PredY, spawning in the northeast position as the blue Terran.
Yeah, and just in case anyone is wondering about the format of this tournament, in the semifinals, in terms of map selection, we're always going to be starting on Metalopolis, as we saw in Game 1, and then it's going to be loser's choice. They can choose from the map pool of 5 maps: Metalopolis, Xel'Naga Caverns, Lost Temple, Scrap Station, and Shakur's Plateau. So in this case, PredY has decided to go back to the 1 vs 1 map, or not go back, but go to the 1 vs 1 map of Xel'Naga Caverns, and that's where we are now in game number 2.
So we saw these guys open with a very identical opening, and then they started going and branching their different ways. We saw PredY kind of mix things up with Siege Tank Bio Army, and then his opponent, who built, I think, initially about 8 Marines, transitioned completely to a mech army. Now, one thing that I really liked is that he would use the units early on that were very beneficial. We saw the mass Hellions, and then they just started dropping off a little bit, of course, as PredY started adding to his siege tank count. Xel'Naga Caverns, what'll be interesting is if you were to go a route like that and use and come up with some sort of similar build, obviously having the mobility of that early on is great. And if he can achieve the same thing where he goes all mech to siege tanks, the middle is where it all matters here on Xel'Naga Caverns, especially in a TVT, and controlling that middle and having the proper siege setups is oh so important. Right now, again, we're just about on the same. We got orbitals going up for both sides, and now that we got our first Marine out here for GoOdy, let's see where he's going to go from here.
GoOdy actually putting up a second refinery now, not making any more Marines. He's actually lifted off his barracks and going to make some sort of pseudo wall with it, it looks like. And he's got an SCV, looks like he wants a factory, yes. So second refinery could mean a lot of things. Could mean a tank siege opening. Also could mean 1 factory into Cloaked Banshees. More likely in the Terran versus Terran matchup, but we're going to have to see where he takes it. Meanwhile, PredY still mining gas as he looks for that fast expansion. Going to drop a 22 command center. Very, very quick expansion, but again, a little bit of a long rush distance in Xel'Naga Caverns. So if you feel confident your opponent not going to do some sort of proxy barracks or any sort of bum rush, you can feel pretty safe putting up this fast expansion as long as you tech to siege tanks quickly and get up actually a starport to get a Viking out to deal with any sort of Banshee play. And that looks like exactly what PredY's going to do, is he was continuously mining that gas while putting up the command center, and now he's got a quick factory going up at about 50%.
Yeah, expanding and sort of teching at the same time, and I think you're absolutely right. You know, we saw PredY kind of opt to go for a Raven early on to prevent any of that, and then, of course, a Viking can kind of do the same job, as he will be just a little bit behind in his production as he gets his second up, but, of course, once that kicks in, he'll be in great shape. Now, here comes that first Hellion out from GoOdy. It is going to be spotted by the SCV, quickly taken out, denies PredY this Xel'Naga vision. He's going to come over to the other side. There will be a Marine there, so he'll kind of scorch him a little bit, going back and forth. And as the Marine retreats, of course, Hellion is going to get some damage off on there. So there he clears out the Xel'Naga vision. There are a few Marines at the front here for PredY, and one of the most important things would be, you know, just to try to keep his opponent from knowing that he's even got that fast expand up. Here comes some Hellions out for PredY as well, so he'll get to see at least what is going out on the battlefield.
We had a little swapperoo from GoOdy, and actually surprisingly on the starport with the tech lab not going for Banshees with Cloak, going for a Raven, and we've got a scan from PredY. Going to see that there's an add-on on the tech lab researching siege mode, and he's got that Raven building out of the starport, which PredY will not see with that scan. He's just going to something building out of the starport. Looks like we've got Hellion on Hellion fights going on in the middle. GoOdy's Hellion could get taken out in a full retreat now. Gonna pass by the SCV and just leave him to die as PredY's Hellion comes to clean up that SCV, who is valiantly trying to drill him to death, but not gonna happen this game.
Hook me up, brother. Spot me on this one as he goes back to the base and is repaired. I think that was actually a pretty smart decision there. Barracks gets lifted again. This the barracks placement just not satisfactory for GoOdy. This is the third time that he has moved. And now he's going to see one Hellion going out. And if he uses that kind of as a scouting tool, as he has another factory going down. So again, seeing that barracks scout, probably good indication that, yep, he's going to go with some sort of a mech-heavy build again. So PredY will be able to get ready for that. What is he doing right now? Putting a tech lab on his barracks. Tech lab already up on the starport. His Raven's coming out, and then, of course, the tech lab on the factory as well. So we've also got a Hellion moving in through the back door here. It's going to meet up with a couple Marines and a tank. It's just on move, and it just tries to slip past there. Sees if it can take out some SCVs here. It does manage to get some damage done, but can't get a killing blow. So unfortunately, he will do no help there for GoOdy.
I just want to take a second to comment on how smart PredY is playing, and kind of the difference between what we saw in Game 1 and what we're seeing here in Game 2. Game 1, he opened with the quick Raven, so he didn't have to worry about any Cloak Banshee harassment, and so he didn't have to save any energy on those orbital commands. Meanwhile, at Game 2, he opens up with a 22 command center, turns them both into orbitals, gets out the single Viking, which he was keeping south of his base, looking for any Cloak Banshees, as he scanned GoOdy and saw the Tech Lab add-on on the starport. Then what he did was saved up 50 energy on both orbitals, got out a quick Raven. Now that the Raven's out, he's not saving any more energy, dropping the mules at will, dropping 2 there at the expansion. Really, really smart and safe play. You know, you get that Cloak Banshee in your main and you're not prepared for it. That is actually a game changer and possibly a game ender. Yeah. So PredY playing very safely while getting the benefit of a quick expansion. I really like people who play this style.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting about that is that he almost saw the Raven pop on that scan, and I wonder how he would have deviated a little bit there. But he still played it safe, and it was not a huge economic disadvantage for him to do that. In fact, it's always better to be safer than sorry in most cases, as long as you just don't get directly countered and screw up in that respect. But PredY is, well, it looks like a dropship is going to load up here, and we will have this medevac moving out potentially. There is some coverage over here, but I do see some holes in the back of GoOdy's base. Now what he could do is, even if he got some vision, there we're going to see the scan go down at the front, finds out what is actually up there. He's moving his whole army out, but I suspect he's just going to move this medevac in if he could avoid the missile turret. Oh, let's see. He might actually just go ahead and get vision, take out the missile turret on the drop and move forward. If he could do some damage to one of these factories in the production there, medevac's going to get beat on by that Viking. Viking will get shot down by the Marines. Now move forward, but here come the siege tanks, and we will see the medevac load back up and bring all those troops home to safety. But I like these little pokes coming out from PredY. That's what he needs to do here, especially, again, if you mentioned, he doesn't have a very mobile army. Other than some Hellions, that's a good way to kind of poke and prod a little bit.
Yeah, the thing I'm going to look for PredY to change from Game 1, he's again opening up with this barracks heavy play. He's got 3 barracks in his main base, now switched over to 2 factories. That favors mobility style play, so he needs to be active with his units. He needs to spread across the map quickly. With this style of play, he has the advantage of mobility. We see a few Hellions for GoOdy going to sneak in. Do they have the blue flame? The Marauder slowing them down. Going to move in, get a shot on the SCVs, and actually not doing too much damage there. The Hellion having 3 kills before it's being taken out. But again, as I was saying, PredY has the advantage of mobility. He needs to abuse that. He needs to be dropping on multiple locations. GoOdy has the stronger army in a kind of man-on-man fight. PredY can't deal with that. He needs to expand, and then if he wants to transition into mechanical base play, he can do that. But at this point, he needs to really be mobile with his marine-based army.
And, I mean, he is doing just that. He's being active in the middle of the map, and that's definitely a good thing, too, because at least you can have that middle map control until it's absolutely imperative that you have it. He did clear out his gold rocks, too. He's going to get a lot of information just by the fact that the destructible rocks at his opponent's gold are not out yet. Now, this is interesting. Making his way all the way around to the back door. Now, while he does have a little bit mobile army, he could actually do some pretty significant damage to this back line. Over here, just a few Marines and a couple of Hellions. These tanks would have to, well, they could reach kind of the back here. So I'm curious to see what PredY is going to actually do and how much he will commit to this attack here.
Yeah, and meanwhile, he's taking his gold base. So I like this, that he's putting on a little bit of harassment. He doesn't need to overcommit here. He can actually just take this barracks out, put on a lot of pressure, and force GoOdy into an uncomfortable position. Looks like PredY gonna get the first siege. He's able to see the siege tanks with his Viking, but GoOdy able to fire back with the barracks. Tank-on-tank action here. GoOdy getting the worst of it. Turret actually going up, gets taken out instantly by the back tanks. GoOdy bringing over some SCVs to repair that tank, and this is probably going to just completely nullify the tank push, but it doesn't need to go any farther. PredY's done what he wanted to do, come in, put a little bit of harassment on, take his third base, putting up the orbital command, and he's controlling the center of the map. So I really like that, and look at this Raven and Viking just doing some sort of mating ritual dance in the middle. That is something you don't see every day.
Salsa took a lot of lessons for that. Missile turrets going down right on top. Be like, oh yeah, I want to show off like that. Watch this. Although the siege tank who's getting infina repaired there finally gets taken out as the STB goes down. And now they're going to start beating away on that missile turret. Missile turret wants to fly.
Turret cannot even fire.
It wants to fire.
The dance is like so mesmerizing.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell it is did there. We're going to have PredY now moving forward, bringing this bio army, and here comes that blue flame again, but this time the Marauder's in a better position. He is going to move forward, try to get the damage off on these siege tanks. If he could actually do some serious damage here to GoOdy's expansion, he would be in a lot of trouble, but that bio army will quickly get taken out as tanks are just pouring out of GoOdy's base. Just like a infinite supply of them. And you'd think there was a factory in his base making tanks.
Meanwhile, a counterattack in the middle of the map. GoOdy trying to siege up on this gold. He's got position on the southern refinery, but looks like PredY has enough of his own tanks that he's going to be able to hold it off. Those tanks of GoOdy not able to hit SCVs. GoOdy has got in control of his natural expansion, majoring some SCVs over. Cleaning that up, looks like he wants to push forward on the gold. Going to put up some turrets, and he's got some Hellions just to kind of add some support to that middle attack. Bring in a Viking for PredY, trying to take out this Raven. I would imagine it's going to move forward, but no, a little bit slow. And to give you an update, we've got PredY at 140 supply, GoOdy down at 110, but he does have the tactical advantage with control of the middle of the map.
Yeah, also look at the harvesters right now. 75 for PredY, 41 for GoOdy, but GoOdy continues to make this push forward, putting this gold base at risk. So far, all of his attention and all of his resources kind of going for this gold. There's no more SCVs there. Missile turret gets taken down. So this gold base is pretty much neutralized here by GoOdy, as he did use that advantage, knowing that a lot of the army was in the back, making that attack to move forward and regain this middle. And we talked about how important this middle is here on Xel'Naga Caverns. And now look at this, PredY moving in from the other side as his gold is getting set up. Marauders just raging through these siege tanks, and they will be able to take this out. He might have to give up a little bit of positioning over here. His gold base is not completely in peril, but now we're going to see SCVs getting taken out as well. Here he has a bunch of units moving down, and yes, he did have to give up a good portion of his position. Meanwhile, PredY moving back in so he can take his gold. Absolutely love the back and forth that we're seeing here on Xel'Naga.
Yeah, they're being really active with their tanks. You know, the one thing people hate from TVT is when you set up your siege line and then sit there until you have 20,000 minerals and you can set up a retirement fund, but that's definitely not what we're seeing here. Both players being very active. If we take a look at the income tab, though, GoOdy is mining almost double the income with about half the harvesters, which is kind of insane. He's got that gold expansion set up with the mules drop there. PredY trying to take a gold of his own as he moves forward with the Vikings to the middle. Point defense drone just kind of flexing and saying, you can't touch this. Now, all the energy gone, going to start taking damage. The Raven, Raven down to about 10 HP now. Point defense drone taken out, and the salsa dance continues. Vikings in the middle of the map.
Yeah, also check out these Hellions over here harassing this natural third of PredY. What's scary about this is that he's got to move units over, and he can't just throw his SCVs here. Finally, 2 tanks come down to take him out, and so he is going to have to go over there. And we've got more SCVs moving into position. Here we have a lot now transferring from the gold as well. Will GoOdy move forward with an attack? Yes, he does, as he pushes forward on this tank line, doing direct damage to these siege tanks, even having these Hellions. You know, the Hellions surprisingly detract so much damage away from those siege tanks, and he is dwindling down the numbers of PredY here very, very nicely. He's continuing to keep a higher amount of mineral income despite the fact that he is down 30 harvesters. So the one thing that's nice about GoOdy is that even if he keeps up at the pace in which he's got SCVs, he's just going to have more units out on the field with the amount of food that's being left. More Hellions being made, trying to control the center area. A lot of siege tanks out here setting up his own missile turrets now, as of course control of the air is going to become a big deal as well as far as vision is concerned. But PredY has a better front line that crosses all around the front, so I do like that a lot.
GoOdy slipping in a few Hellions just before that door gets closed. Looks like they're going to run into some Marauders and a tank trying to slip back. SCVs get pulled instantly, taking almost no damage from those Blue Flame Hellions. Very nice. And you know what was interesting about what you were talking about? The supply differential continues to favor PredY. 130, now 140 for GoOdy, 180 for PredY, but 30 of that supply is in harvesters. So once this gold base dries up for GoOdy and PredY still has it, that's going to be a really nice timing for PredY, as he's got a lot of SCVs on that gold base. Oh my god, over 1 page of SCVs over there. It looks like there's about 50 SCVs on that. Jesus.
Yeah, there are a lot, you know, that's where these Hellions could come in real big. But again, PredY spreading out his tanks nicely now. Again, what's so unique about this TBT is that PredY literally started with a mixed bio and siege tank army, whereas GoOdy right out of the gate, he wasn't even hiding it. Yo, I got a mech army, what's up? But PredY once again converts over to a mech army and kind of follows the suit, almost mimics or mirrors what his opponent's doing. The only difference is, of course, he's got a lot of these Marauders in play, and I wish that he had a few more of those out. They seem to be really effective.
Why don't you take a look at PredY's natural, as we have 8 barracks completing, and all of them putting on Tech Lab add-ons. So this is the tech switch that you were looking for.
Yeah, that's nice. I think that he was trying to get there last time. Maybe he just had too many Marines to deal with the battle cruisers. Great. But again, that's something that, you know, he's got to be thinking about, is that, well, what could happen there if we do see an eventual, transition over to the battle cruisers again.
2 armories going up for PredY. As we go into long games, upgrades become so pivotal. GoOdy at just +1 attack on his mechanical units. PredY now sacrificing those SCVs. Let's see, he's dropped down to 94 harvesters. As GoOdy is actually pushing up the western side of the map towards the center, using those Hellions to take out isolated tanks, now moving in with the siege tanks alone. He gets the first siege on PredY, and he's going to be able to deal a lot of damage to these siege tanks. Thor's taking out the Viking spotters, and we are just going blow for blow with these tanks. A lot of the army trading. It looks like we're left with a new line draw here. GoOdy capturing a little bit of that territory, going to take out that Viking. And I'm surprised that PredY actually is taking the 9 o'clock expansion as opposed to, or excuse me, the 3 o'clock as opposed to the 9 o'clock. It looked like he wanted to spread out westward, but meanwhile expanding eastward. So interesting there. PredY lost a lot of supply, actually, down at 164. GoOdy up at 172, so he swung it around, taking the supply advantage here, but a lot of that is actually in SCVs, as PredY has sacrificed over 30 SCVs to free up some supply here.
That, you know what, and now that you mention it, it is kind of interesting that PredY is going for that one and his opponent's going for the other one. And I guess there is just like a little bit of an easier access, you know, because the ramp is pointing to your main. But I was going to say what could have been interesting is if PredY just got got his command center down, put up a planetary fortress, and then took the other side. It's a little tough to take down a planetary fortress up there, moving all your guys up, and especially if he's got some siege support there. But he is going to get this 5th base up now. And again, it's just too bad that we're not seeing a little bit more activity with those Hellions. There's actually just 2 active mining bases here for PredY. Of course, he's got the one in the northwest, and then he's got his gold. Well, that gold is about... Oh my God, hold on. Hellions just getting ready to snipe a bunch of SCVs transferring over. It's actually too bad that he did not give chase to that. He could have lost a lot there, but he is going to take out these ever so critical mules that have just started, and here comes the planetary fortress. It will finish, but just outside of range. Nope, he is within range. Here comes the backup units. Those Hellions are just going to sit there, and they will die, not see. Oh, that one's... Oh my God, no, he didn't clear out the last one.
Oh,
and
God.
Now these Hellions are just freaking frying. Oh my God, Chill, I could not believe this happening.
So a lot of action on the map. GoOdy is pushing to the northwest. Meanwhile, PredY is counterattacked to the bottom right, killing the 4th base of GoOdy, completely destroying the planetary fortress that was down there. But GoOdy now controlling the high ground of PredY's 4th base. PredY pulling his entire army, now going to try to break through the western end. And meanwhile, that Hellion has 15 kills at the 5th base of PredY. Jesus Christ. And Orbital Command still under siege for PredY as... single tank hitting that, forced to lift off. PredY re-establishing control at the western end. Looks like GoOdy is dropping some mules to try to mule bomb these tanks. Oh my God, that's actually doing a lot of damage. I'm not sure that's the best use of your orbital energy, but to each his own. And this is getting really scrappy really fast as PredY tries to drive to the western end to regain control of his high ground. Scan goes off, the tank is allowed to fire, and that's going to drive back PredY, and the game is going to slow down a little bit. GoOdy now trying to retake his 4th base, which is still controlled by PredY, and he can't do it. Command center floating over there for whatever reason. Tanks and Thors trying to drive through. Looks like the Hellion's going to absorb a lot of fire as the mech army drives through, and he will regain control of that 4th base, which is oh so pivotal as he's barely been mining. He's only got 1 rich field left.
Yeah, and here we got another attack by PredY in the northwest. He's just going to take a couple of siege tanks in these Marauders. He takes out 1 siege tank. He's just out of range for that Thor. He did get the scan down there. A new scan comes up here, and GoOdy might move forward, but he is completely denying that expansion. A bunch of SCVs doing absolutely nothing. The income right now is abysmal for both players, as we do have a lot of SCVs transferring over here to GoOdy, to his natural 3rd. The gold, there is just 9 minerals remaining on 1 gold patch. So it's actually going to be really important that GoOdy makes his way over and eventually grabs it, but no, look, PredY is going to take it first. However, it is already an orbital. He's just going to move that one that was at his 3rd, and he has got to do it. It is so important. Another attack come down here by PredY, and I just love the amount of action that we're seeing here on Xel'Naga. Insane.
And actually, I'm surprised how well the Hellions do at kind of buffering those tank shots. Do really, really well. Haven't seen too much Hellion-based TVT play, at least I haven't personally. Meanwhile, PredY re-establishing himself in the 9 o'clock expansion after losing the 3 o'clock. GoOdy re-establishing himself at the 4th base, his kind of 3rd natural down at this sunken ground at the southeast. And we've kind of re-established a bit of a slower pace now. PredY at 174 supply, GoOdy at 200. Harvester count fairly equal, income fairly equal as well. And we've got a Banshee actually from GoOdy harassing the 9 o'clock, going to take out a lot of SCVs. PredY trying to put up a missile turret that actually gets sniped by the Banshee, and that's
nice.
Annoying to deal with when you've got a lot to handle.
Yeah, he's trying to bring over his Viking right now. Banshee does not have cloak, so he will be able to take care of this. But he's going to get 7 kills, 8 kills, maybe even 9 before he finally gets taken out. And I really like what he's doing here. Now, one thing I want to point out here that I think is so interesting, considering how long this has now been a 33-minute game based off of our game clocks here, and all the production for GoOdy is coming out of 4 factories and 1 barracks and 1 starport. Like, to me, that is absolutely insane. Over here, we've got 7 barracks and only 3 factories supporting. No, I'm sorry, we've got 10 barracks and 3 factories and a starport here. So GoOdy really just having a massive force over here.
Well,
we've got
we've got
really
a Hellion drop
out
at 9 o'clock. Oh my god, this is gonna kill so many SCVs. Blue Flame, he's gotta hit that. Oh my god, one more strike. No, he can't get all the SCVs, but he's running back. Don't do that. That would have been devastating, but a lot of kills for those Hellions coming in the drop. Nice, denying more SCVs by GoOdy.
Yeah, he's doing a phenomenal job with that right now. The supply now is 46 to 65. So GoOdy, who was down 30 harvesters at one point, and when I said supply, I meant harvesters. 30 harvesters at one point is now up by 20, or 19 to be exact. He's now moving a lot of stuff around here and making sure that he's protecting his natural third, as we did have a drop over there, a medevac with two siege tanks in it. And I hear a Banshee again somewhere.
Hiding beneath the orbital at 3 o'clock, taking out a lot of tanks. Actually, this Banshee has 4 kills. Those are all tanks in an SCV. But the Viking at 3 o'clock going to come and clean up that Banshee. But look at the entire force of GoOdy hiding southeast of the 3 o'clock expansion. Going to push forward. He's dropping mules again. Mule bombing all the tanks as he tries to push forward. Those mules sitting there not taking a lot of damage as they don't have attack priority. Now Cloak finishes for GoOdy as he drives through. Thor buffering a lot of damage as GoOdy moves forward and gets position. Gonna deny the command center landing at 3 o'clock, and there's a lot of action going on at 3 o'clock. The Banshee gonna take out one tank, gonna take out the second. No, it's just gonna sit there. But GoOdy is gonna claim the 3 o'clock as his own.
Yeah, and PredY does not like this. You can see an army now moving forward, several siege tanks, marauders, and a couple of medevacs. He is actually going to load 2 of the siege tanks up, possibly drop them there at the top, and then move forward with this army. But this is actually going to be a critical battle for this expansion here. Banshee is going to be taken out. The siege tanks are going to drop in the back. They are out. Oh my god, he has spayed this expansion. He has spayed it completely. Orbital Command will be able to get out of there thanks to, but those 2 Vikings keeping it from landing once again, and those siege tanks, just a great little lift there, Chill, as this is just an absolutely insane. I don't think I've seen a game like this on Xel'Naga before.
Yeah, this is madness how much action there is, and look at this big army for GoOdy as scan drops right on top of that as PredY's going to see exactly what's going on. GoOdy moving towards the 9 o'clock. Huge siege line there with a lot of marauders joining as the tank siege up. And looks like GoOdy, realizing he was scanned, is going to wait for the scan to go away and now drive through the center of the map. Not too much there, just a single tank and a few turrets, so he could break through there and gain more territory for the Purple Terran here in game number 2.
Wow. We got the orbital command smartly landed over here. He scans, it sees that he's not over there, so he's going to go ahead and keep that army there in order to continue to deny it. Let's just take a look at the unit counting station. 4 PredY, 13 Marauders, 2 Medevacs, 6 Vikings, 21 Siege Tanks, and 6 Marines, with the Raven out as well. Over on GoOdy's side, 8 Hellions, 6 Thors, and 27 Siege Tanks, and now, oh my god, GoOdy just walked into a huge line of siege tanks. And unless this is his way of doing one of those, oh, well, I'm just throwing away units so I can transition to something else. Problem is that I don't really see anything else to transition to, so I think that was actually just a big move mistake there by GoOdy, losing a lot of units there thanks to that great siege choke that PredY has.
You know what's surprising is that the supply is in GoOdy's favor. Looking at the battles, I keep thinking it's in PredY's favor, but PredY at 172, GoOdy at 196, so I'm not sure, especially, maybe it's because he's playing mechanic-based, so he's got those high supply Thors and tanks, but PredY has a good tank presence as well, and as you said, that was a huge mistake by GoOdy, trying to buffer the shots with mules, and now we may have a battle in the center as GoOdy pushes forward, gains control of the Xel'Naga, and going to siege up a single tank there. PredY going to fall back to his gold base, which lacking an orbital command. Looks like that's blown away, but 9 o'clock is drying up fast, and you know, we're gonna have to look for new bases as GoOdy moves into 9 o'clock. A lot of SCVs coming out. Mules dropping yet again on the tanks. Mules getting taken out by the Marauders, not dealing a bunch of damage. SCVs jamming up the tanks a lot. Harvester count going down oh so fast for PredY, and he's now bringing in his tank sieging up. Gonna clean that up. Medevacs coming in, but there's nothing in them for GoOdy. Just gonna completely sacrifice. This game is madness. lot of supply. Oh my god, only 15 harvesters on the map for PredY. He lost over 40 harvesters in that last battle with GoOdy. Supplies now 146 for GoOdy and 124 for PredY. Income for PredY, 0. He is mining 0 minerals.
Oh my god, but the problem is that right now GoOdy has nothing. No, move your siege tanks up there. Oh my god, he cannot afford to lose any of those right now. He is hugely down on units. In fact, let's take a look again at the unit counting station. Now suddenly he is the master of SCV, 61 opposed to 21, but has no units there. Well, when I say no units, I mean he's got 8 Thors and 9 siege tanks, but 21 siege tanks, 17 marauders, and suddenly PredY's little army is definitely looking like it could crush through. But both these guys have army compositions that you can't just walk in and kill, and we are going to have PredY move forward, get rid of everything that was sitting at the far 3 o'clock expansion. Oh, and now we're going to have to see the takeoff of that orbital command to move through there. And this is just an absolutely crazy map. Back to the income. We do have PredY now getting 500 minerals in. It's like we went past late game, dude. We're back to early game, at least as far as their income is concerned. But they just have a shitload of units to go along with it.
And bottom right, PredY trying to siege up on that 4th base of GoOdy. It gets cleaned up, and he's lost that presence at 3 o'clock, and that allows GoOdy to expand there. And one point I kind of want to bring up is that PredY was not mining his 3rd expansion, which is this upper left, for a long-ass time. He was instead mining the 9 o'clock. This means that the final base he's going to be mining is this very safe top left, whereas the final base that GoOdy is going to be mining is this very exposed 3 o'clock. And if he moves all his units over to defend the 3 o'clock, that opens up the middle, whereas PredY can defend his top left expansion by sitting in the middle. So PredY's going to have a more comfortable position as we move into kind of super late game, as you were saying.
Yeah, and you know, this might be the time if he knows this is... Oh, hold on, we got an army for PredY moving down on one of the last orbital commands is actually mining. There are a lot of SCVs and mules here, and he is going to be able to take this out. That also will decrease his energy and any available scans that he has. Those marauders do a great job there. It might actually clean up. And they're going to have to come in. The gold gets taken out as well. Another orbital command off the map. And PredY is just chipping away and chewing away at everything that GoOdy has. He's now moving into his natural expansion too. But he's got a great choke here in the main. And of course, all his production is right here. So it's going to be spitting out at the choke. If he moves forward, PredY could throw away a lot of units here. We already see siege tanks taking some fire. Let's see how this one plays out.
Meanwhile, there was a little bit of a battle at 3 o'clock. GoOdy Maynarded all his remaining SCVs over, and they got taken out by these siege tanks of PredY. You can look at the tanks here. We've got 7, 8, and 9 kills on those tanks. Banshee came over to harass. That got denied. We've got another Banshee moving across to the 9 o'clock, going to try to thread this needle in between the turrets, and it does successfully. Moving into the top left where all the SCVs are. Immediate turret goes up, but that's going to get taken out. Meanwhile, a lot of units moving around for PredY. He's at 154 supply. Meanwhile, GoOdy at 156. So we are, for all intents and purposes, all tied up. And what happens when these final expansions dry up? Do we go to regame, or what's going to happen? I don't even know who has the advantage at this point. PredY certainly has more presence on the map, but GoOdy has dug himself in his main base on the 3rd and the 3 o'clock. No real opportunity here for PredY to attack.
Yeah, I have no idea. I think it's just going to come down to the last sets of units. And if you take a look at things, here comes another force by PredY moving up. Now, I mean, I guess they could just sit here all day. I think this would be really bad for PredY to try to push even remotely close to this. We're going to see a couple Marines get charged, a bunch of siege tanks. No, that was just horrible. And that's exactly what he doesn't want to do. I think the best choice for him right now is not to push forward on the main, but actually try to push behind into the 3 o'clock here by GoOdy. If he can get behind there, take out his income, and then get rid of those units, and not while forcing a fight at the front, he could win this game right here. He's got his opponent basically holed up here in his main. And that's it. And here comes the medevac. He's going to send a couple of siege tanks out. He's going to drop them down. Oh my god, I love this. This is great.
Got some Hellion harassment at the top left. Harvester count now 31 for PredY, 29 for GoOdy. So we're a long ways away from where we were back in the economic boom when there was 100 SCVs for PredY. Thor being dropped around the 9 o'clock. Couple tanks being dropped as well, cleaning up a lot of units actually as GoOdy establishes a little bit of a position on the map. PredY got a lot of units moving through. He may flank over, and looks like GoOdy wants to drop his units bit by bit and establish position there, but PredY having none of it, bringing over his Vikings to try to snipe those medevacs. Thor is on the field, so Vikings are not good friends with Thor, is going to stay away from there. And you know what actually becomes really strong in these late kind of low econ Terran versus Terrans is nukes. I would be ecstatic if we saw someone throw down not a nuke silo, but what is it even called? The Ghost Academy, and start nuking. Becomes really strong actually.
You know what? I agree with you 100%. The problem is I think both of these players have so committed to these mech-based armies that at this point it would be a huge risk to actually move over. They're trying to use all their income to just reinforce everything. And while I would love to see something like that, I think it's going to come down to the bigger army taking on the even bigger army. Here we've got GoOdy moving out now. There's no longer that contained into the front door. Of course, he was forced to move. Now he wants to retake this middle, and he's got to be very careful with how he chooses to proceed. I'm surprised that he's not going to swing over, maybe take out some of those forces he knows are in his front door, and try to split these forces up and just kind of shave away at it a little bit of a time.
So supplies showing 190 for PredY, 189 for GoOdy. And another thing to mention is that GoOdy has +1 on his vehicle plating, +3 on his vehicle attack. And here we go in the middle. GoOdy walking right up, gonna siege up. A lot of Marines pumped up. They need to get out of there as the tank's left to die to the mech-based army of GoOdy, and actually breaks directly through, flanking from the east side as well, moving through. PredY needs to siege and reestablish some sort of line here, some semblance of control. His marine-based army not going to do well against the tank-based army of GoOdy. GoOdy has a few forces left defending his western flank at the Zelnaga, and here we go. GoOdy is pushing forward. This is his time.
Yeah, he is going to set up at the Zelnaga. He's now swinging around. I think he wants to go and take out this expansion at the 9 o'clock. The problem is it's not doing much for him right now, but that seems to be the plan. He needs to try to get there before this large force of PredY can siege up in that choke. We saw him do it before, and it's not going to happen. He's going to get there way before the siege comes, and will he get the initial damage up? Yes, the whole front line of PredY is going to go down, and he's going to just be able to move forward as we see the forces of PredY just melt to the thousands and thousands of siege tanks that seem to be on the field here. The Thors will help with that as well. And now with the income being only 500 minerals for PredY, he is not going to be able to reinforce all those losses here. And GoOdy should be able to finally clean this up.
You know, PredY really laid on his siege. I'm not sure what happened there. He was in position first, but just did not siege. Supplies 78 for PredY, 140 for GoOdy. So, he's taken a commanding position in this game. He's only at 100 minerals. His income very, very weak. And if we take a look at the 3 o'clock base, not many minerals there. We've got winter coming up as the recession is setting in. Not too much of a future to look forward for GoOdy. He's got to finish it with what he's got left, and only a few more reinforcements coming up. He pushes up to 150 supply, and I think he can just break through this line of PredY, and then that's going to be it. We've got a battle in the middle. Marauder-based army getting a lot of damage for PredY as he takes out a lot of tanks there. Very nice, getting some cost efficiency out of his army there. And he calls good game, good luck. GoOdy taking it in a 53-minute and 41-second slugfest. Terran versus Terran. Wow.
That is absolutely insane. That game and how it played out, I think I can very, very confidently say that I have not experienced a TVT quite like that. I think that we've seen the Bio mini siege and then several Vikings to sort of play that vision game. But this almost was completely different because instead of, playing peekaboo with your Vikings, you'd be like, okay, it's time to just roll in with a bunch of Thors and some siege tanks, crack through that front line, to establish control right here, and see how long I can hold it. And then it just went back and forth like that. And I just think that it was an amazing game. Congratulations to GoOdy for moving on. He is now going to be going on to face the winner of Naniwa versus Junie, a PVZ. And I got to tell you, regardless of whether it's a P or it's a Z chill, the thought of seeing GoOdy's sort of mech play, Terran mech play versus either of these is going to be really interesting.